Commissioner Turner, did you have your hand up there?
No, I didn't at this point.
Okay, all right, Commissioner Whitehead is up.
I started to bring this up at the last meeting, and we agreed to delay this discussion until this meeting, and I'm here, we should delay it again. We've only got a month to do this. I absolutely disagree that we should do this behind the scenes. I mean, we did promise to have all of our discussions in public and open forums and to make those discussions available to the public. So I don't think we should be submitting this stuff in writing. I don't think we should be getting staff comments back in writing. Staff are here, we're here. I know it's not efficient, but we have an opportunity here to discuss all this stuff in public, to get feedback from staff as we go along, etc. I mean, we already delayed it for 1 week. I don't see the advantage in continuing to delay it. I think the deeper question is this stuff that at least the majority of the commission is even willing to consider? I mean, because if it's not, then I guess I'd be happy to submit this stuff. I mean, for the record, but if we're not even going to consider making these little nickel and dime cuts here and there, then we don't need to waste everybody's time.
Mayor, just to clarify, Mayor, just what the point wouldn't be, it would be just internal communication. It would be communication that we would bring back at the meeting and discuss it openly, because that was what the intention was, to do that. And I didn't realize, I guess when we talked about going line by line, not realizing now we've started to get input from staff. I can tell this is going to go very tedious and deep, and some of them are not going to really have that opportunity to provide input without really talking with their middle managers and frontline people. But it would all be in the open. This would just be and all the documentation that we submit back and forth will all be open to public record, but it'll be discussed, and then we can see if there's any agreement for various cuts, and that would impact the overall budget, because I know how difficult it is for staff to put a budget together, and then one change, it's like that complex web. You make one change to it, and it throws it out someplace else.
Just would like to, I can see the merit to both sides of this argument, this discussion that we're having right now. The advantage of Commissioner Wilder's proposal or methodology is that we're able to hammer a lot of this out now and then cruise on. The advantage of Commissioner Mays is that department heads have a little more time to react and respond accordingly to any suggestion or idea. One of the things that I particularly liked about what we got from staff about 2 weeks ago was the sort of as City Manager Goins called it, the cafeteria plan, where we could made it really easy for us to go through and say, okay, here's the various options that we have. I wonder if it would be as beneficial doing that on these line items versus not. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there as to add to the discussion. To have sort of like we had with the cost reduction possibilities, include those as a cost. So, for example, you would say on line 4 on page 4 of city manager's budget, this is proposed to cut 1,000 or something like that. I don't know if it would make it easier for commissioners as a whole to grasp it all. I don't know the answer to that, and I'm just throwing it out there for discussion.
Okay, Commissioner May.
Mayor, I think one thing that would be helpful to, just as a reminder, when we're talking about certain items, if we just refer to their budget code, for example, like advertising is 100.10.53205, that would be easier for comparison purposes if people could remember to do that, instead of just saying, let's cut advertising in a particular area, because that way it can help us key back in to a specific point on a spreadsheet if we refer to it by their budget code. That's just a suggestion.
Ted?
Well, even if we do spend the day to try to go line by line, per what I've gone through, is about $248,000 of line cuts. So if you just estimate $250,000, we still have about $800,000 deficit that we still need to look at. So I think if we submit what we think line by line, and in the meantime, let's think about how we can get $800,000 if we're going to just take it from from the general fund? I mean, how are we gonna fund that?
You have a reserve.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what you fall back on.
Mm-hmm. So do we just take it from the reserve? Is that, or do we still try to make more cuts?
I think,
What do you guys wanna do?
I think that the cuts are, I think to overcome that $800,000, I mean, there's, again, I don't know that we can cut our way out of that much particular money, so then that goes to a revenue issue, which means we have to determine, are we gonna increase the tax, and if so, what tax are we looking at increasing? And that's what it boils down to when it comes to revenue, or creating another tax or something like that.
Mr. Water?
I guess, I know we've had this discussion a number of times. I'm really happy to use the reserves to invest in long-term cost-saving measures. And if push came to shove, I would even be happy to use a negligible amount to balance the budget. I don't think that we should use a large amount of reserves just to cover recurring expenses. That could get us through this year, but that's very unsustainable in the long run. I mean, we need to actually set up solutions that will continue to work for the city over time. In terms of new revenues, and none of these are going to solve, none of these in and of themselves are going to solve the problem, but I don't think this had even occurred to me until today, but I mean, selling advertising on the buses, lots of other cities do that. I don't think there's any reason not to. They can be moving billboards. I mean, they're an effective advertising space. And, you know, businesses buy advertising to boost their bottom line. So in that sense, it could even have a small but somewhat positive boost for local businesses. I mean, businesses advertise in order to make money, so that can only be economically beneficial. Annexation is a tricky one. I don't really understand the legality, the full legality behind that, but I'm not sure that we can annex an area without their
Right.
consent or request.
We could at least start with the study. But again, that comes later.
And I know we've gone on this before, but I would be happy to consider, and I know I've said that I didn't want to consider this in and of itself. I mean, I would be happy to consider an occupational tax increase as long as it were accompanied by a decrease in property taxes. And I'm not talking about a decrease that would gut our property taxes, but if we increase occupational taxes by 1/4% and decrease property taxes by 2 or 4%, that's still a net gain in revenue for the city. And in practical terms, part of what that does is it shifts the burden away from local citizens towards the thousands of folks who come in from out of town to work here. And one of the reasons the city's budget is kind of different from other cities our size is that we have to maintain a level of service for a city that's larger than 25,000, for a city that's larger than our population, because we're the city-state government, because we have so many people that come in from out of town to work, so we have to maintain a public safety force and streets and roads to accommodate that larger load. So I would be happy, I'd happy to do that in a way that shifts the burden away from local residents to folks coming in from the outside.
Okay, from what we discussed, is there agreement to have each of the commissioners to go through and make your suggestions to give them to the city manager, then distribute to the department heads for reaction at the next meeting?
For the line items.
Yeah, for those
Yeah.
items in the various budget materials, those lines, I think that was looks like where we're heading.
All right, the next meeting, that's without a special meeting, will be June 9th, I believe. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Jason, right?
I think,
Yes, Mr.
Mayor, I think in order to fulfill our obligation, we would need to meet before then.
Yeah.
Can we meet on the,
4th.
can't do the 4th, what about the 6th? To Wednesday.
What day you say?
Wednesday, June 6th.
6?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the only evenings I do have an engagement, but I could,
It's Wednesday.
Is there any earlier date that you might look at? Or, Steve, could you tell us our obligation?
Let me tell you kind of the process here, what we do. You know, we do the budget book every year. So typically, as we do the ordinance and we do our budget, I'm working on the budget book, trying to get all the details for that together. So that takes about a month to complete it. And I've got several folks that really like to have that budget book in their hand as soon as we take that second vote on the ordinance. They want to have that budget book in their hands. So that's that's a dilemma. So if we could, the quicker we can set the detail, that gives me time to get that budget book out because it's such a detailed process and such a manual process.
Well, what about May 30th then? That's next week from Wednesday.
we could just hash it out today. I mean, that's what I was. At the last meeting, that's what we said we would do, is we would discuss the line by line today. And that would save us, it wouldn't save us any time today, but it would save us a lot of time in terms of this process.
I'm good on the 30th.
What day?
I'm good on the 30th.
30th. That sounds good, Mr.
Day or night.
Request
I mean, I can
we
do
would do
it.
it 5 o'clock is what I would request.
Sure.
5 o'clock on the 30th.
5 o'clock on the 30th.
I might be 10 minutes late, but I'll be here.
Okay,
Make
so,
it 5:15.
so 5 o'clock on,
Or we could say maybe 5:15 to accommodate, unless you don't care. I'm sorry.
I mean, I care. I mean, I'm just saying.
Can we say 5:15?
Yeah, I get off work at 4:30. I gotta run across town, pick up my kids, and then come back.
say 5, you want to say 5:30?
Could be 5:30 and I could be on time.
Okay, all right,
Thanks, guys.
5:30 on the 30th. Will be, and you'll get the information to the city manager, post haste, okay? All right.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
May I follow up to something Commissioner Wilder said? We do accommodate the state a whole lot, and they make in lieu of payment to the city, and it's a very small amount. I don't think it comes anywhere close to the actual cost that we incur. Of course, we want to be good partners with the state, but at the same time, we might look at trying to approach them about increasing their in lieu of payment. I don't know the last time that was done. Do you, Mr.
And
Fleming?
Governor Carroll was Governor Carroll.
Actually, yeah,
Was it?
like 3 or 4 years ago, wasn't it, Commissioner?
Oh, I thought it was when Julian Carroll was governor.
But that's the last time, that's when the payment was set, but as far as, we approached them about 3 or 4 years ago to try to change the amount. There was some conversation.
Oh, but that didn't,
Yeah, it
I mean-
didn't culminate in anything, but there was some comment with,
In a meeting, I was in a meeting Friday with some citizen types. I was talking about the budget, actually, trying to get feedback. And this topic was brought up. That was about, it has been a long time since we've gotten any additional funds, upgrades and increase from the state. And so there is some people now looking at trying to get the information pertaining to what other state capitals do. Like working with the state government.
Mhm.
And hopefully we'll have some little information on that before too long. And they're, we have the Capital Development Committee, which is a statutory committee that meets twice a year. And there's different representation from the state, like Finance Administration Cabinet, and usually it's a sharing type thing. And so that's going to be, the intent is to use that next meeting, when we have a little committee meeting, to try to start a discussion on that. But it has to have anything else to be, had to come back to General Assembly. But we, I agree with you. That is an area that potentially maybe be something. But with the tight bind that they're in now too, I don't know how much success, but at least there's a conversation should be started, I think. Okay.
Conversely, what about the plant board? Because it says that their pilot is under negotiation. Do we have any leverage in those negotiations? Looks like Rob maybe even has something.
I think our solicitor has been into prior discussions before I came into my job, and I don't know if he knows of any current.
We have not engaged in any current discussions. I think maybe 18 months ago, we had discussions about the pilot that the plant board was paying when they advised us that they were going to stop paying the pilot. When you look at the documents where the plant board was created, my recollection from around that time frame is the documents creating the plant board actually called for pilot payment from the plant board. In addition to discussing payment in lieu from the plant board, there was some discussion about, well, the plant board was not charged rent on their half of the municipal hall building because they were paying a pilot, and if they were going to cease paying the pilot, then perhaps it would be appropriate for them to pay some amount for rent. And the amount that was discussed very informally and was never agreed upon was right at $75,000. And that's where we are.
Okay.
So their articles of incorporation actually state that they have to, or when we created the plant board, it actually states that they have to pay?
I believe it's in the ordinance
Ordinance.
creating the plant board. Again, I would need to go back and check that because it's been some time since I actually reviewed that document.
From your recollection, did the ordinance set any terms, or was it just a general, they shall provide payment in lieu of taxes?
I think it was just a payment in lieu. It was not a specified amount, no specified term or period, just they were to pay a payment in lieu.
And I guess as we go back and review it, let's make sure there's not something on the flip side that the city in the ordinance is supposed to be doing that, that we're not doing.
Right. Right. And they had paid it for many, many years. And there's always been, as you all know, a good working relationship between the plant board and the city.
Rightfully so. Yeah. Okay.
I guess I will say that I feel like we've certainly tried to maintain a good working relationship with the plant board and have in lots of ways. But it does seem that we keep getting the short end of the stick in terms of that good working relationship in every single interaction we have with them. Whether or not it's the payment in lieu of taxes or the consolidation or whatnot. I'm happy to give and take, but give and give and give starts to get kind of old.
Okay, any more? Commissioner Henry?
Just one more thing. Is it okay to see where everybody stands with the occupational tax, which I guess that 0.25% would be 1.128550 to bring in, which would if people are in favor of it, that would take out the $800,000. If the 250 line items are looked at and taken, that would leave the 800,000 to be covered versus taking it from the reserve. So is it okay if we get a head count of where everybody stands with that
On the,
on the occupational tax proposal? Or do you not want to,
I'm not sure.
if it's worth considering, or is it worth taking it off of our little cafeteria thing here? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, the cafeteria plan.
Mhm.
What'd you say?
The cafeteria plan, where we pick and choose.
I know Commissioner Wilder said that he supported just a minute ago. I mean, I would just like to say.
If accompanied by a property tax decrease.
Okay. I don't think I can support it.
I would not support the occupation tax.
Guarantee it at that level into the future. I mean, I realize that the commission at its discretion can choose to establish a longevity pay amount every 3 years based on the availability of funds in the budget. But as we've seen in past budget cycles, that term doesn't really mean anything. I mean, when I first joined the commission, employees were told that there weren't funds available for a COLA, for a cost of living increase. In that same year, the commission posted $1 million increase in the reserves, and that's one of the reasons. If you all recall correctly, that's one of the reasons we approved a 2% COLA. I believe it was midway through last year is when it came to light that the funds that employees told were not available, when it came to light that they actually had been put in reserves instead, and we chose to honor that commitment to employees. But my deeper point is that I think the concept of longevity is that it guarantees employees that if they stick with the city, if they're loyal to the city, that they can expect at least a small increase over time. But if that increase isn't in some guaranteed form, then I don't think it provides any security at all. I think the commission every 3 years can say, well, we'd rather build another public safety building, or we'd rather put it in reserves instead. I'm sorry, there just aren't funds available. Then there isn't that certainty that they can improve their situation, at least minutely, as long as they stick with the city. So I'd very much be in favor of reestablishing the prior ordinance to make it a guarantee on some level. So in other words, at least make 1% a guarantee, and then if funds are available in other budgets, then they can go towards COLAs, which are frankly better than longevity increases anyway.
Commissioner Turner.
I've stated before, and I'll just reaffirm my statement and commitment, back when staff handed us the various options of longevity pay, the longevity pay cafeteria plan that they provided us. I supported the 1%, I think it was over 5 years, as a minimum for the employees. I support that now. We have to meet budget, we have to get there, but I certainly am in support of that and work to try to figure out how to do it and get us there, because we lost quite a bit of experience this last year, and we can't afford to do that too often. So we need to do what we can to help retain some of these great employees that we have. However, we're going to do it. we got to figure a way to do it.
You know, comment?
I'm in favor of maintaining it currently.
Of maintaining the current ordinance.
Is that what you're saying? Is that what you said?
Oh, no, well, the current ordinance makes longevity pay discretionary.
So bring it back to the previous ordinance,
Yeah.
to reinstating longevity to previous ordinance. Thank you for the clarification.
So it sounds like we've got 2 in support of maintaining it at 1% at 3 years, and 1 in favor of 1% every 5 years.
Mayor, I've gone on record, I'm in support of longevity, as much as when we look at the budget, what we can reasonably do is important to me.
you saying for longevity, you support longevity for 3 or 5?
Oh, talking to me? I think 3 is probably the best in terms of a real, because the way the cycle is, I believe I'd have to ask Mr. Donahue again, but we don't have to do that now, but that's, I believe, well, maybe we should. I hate to belabor that, but
Mr. Donahue, can you come up, please, to the mic?
I guess my question is based on promotions and all of the factors that go into determining different pay grades. Is there a better way to do that for 3 versus 5 or 4 or 2 or?
My concern with changing to 5 would be the transition period where maybe somebody
That's what I thought.
that had just, if you did 5, 10, 15, and now we're doing 3, 6, 9, 12, somebody that had just got a 9 may be eligible to get that 10 in 1 year, and somebody that had just got their 15 would have to wait 5 years to get to the, and, you know, there's just a transition period there where I think it might be difficult. Not to say that it couldn't be done. I think it just concerns me, that transition, and how it affects people.
So 3's better.
In my opinion, if it's going to be continued, I think that changing the time frame creates an additional complication on the administrative side.
You know, I still think 3 is better. Thank you.
So does that mean that we can go ahead and direct staff to prepare an ordinance change? Do you understand what you're being asked to prepare?
Do you want, no, I don't. Of course, right now, the ordinance says that longevity pay, the amount of longevity pay is at the discretion of the commission based upon the budget. And now, do you want to put a specific percentage in for each 3-year period?
The consensus that I'm hearing is to guarantee 1% every 3 years. Is that?
1%
Yeah. Can we also, is there majority support to go ahead and direct staff to look into the logistics of selling advertising space on city buses?
Also for that.
I support that.
That's fine.
looking into for sure.
Is that great? One other item that I wanted to bring up in regards to the Juniper Hills Golf Course, and this has come up a number of years. Would it be possible for us to just shave a couple of weeks off of either end of the season? Would that save us enough money to consider?
Kirk, would you please come forward? Thank you.
I think one thing, in June of 2010, I don't think Commissioner Head or Commissioner Turner were here, but we presented a 5-year program on cost reduction through the golf program, and I think we have, as far as both increasing fees, increasing revenue, and each year we've been decreasing the maintenance budget. So we've been taking that down. So I think, we sort of, the last few years have been in that process. Sometimes in the off season, we've been trying to restrict and again reduce that budget each year as it is. So, the off season, we really don't have, our wintertime expenses are quite low as it is. I guess, we've been we're in a sort of a program to continue to reduce those the next few years, but, sometimes a dramatic jump might cause a disruption of some of the programs we currently have, but
Maybe my memory doesn't serve me correctly, but I thought the deficit was $300,000 when we started the discussion.
no, I think it was higher at that point.
Okay.
We've reduced it. We've reduced the budget the last few years approximately 15%. 2010, we had a real good year revenue-wise. Again, it's a little bit difficult to budget for the golf course because we're so weather dependent, but our revenues in 2010 were very good. Our 2011 dipped, but fortunately this year in 2012, we're having a real good year through the weather. So, you know, I'm hopeful that we'll be under that amount and with plans to reduce that, you know, each of the next few years, I think.
Just a little bit of trends. In 2009, the net loss was 351.
Okay.
In 2010, it was 345. 2011, it's 334. And they have, based on their projections, well, it looks like we could be around 300,000 this year. And they're projected to try to take things to below 300,000 in 2013. And it looks like the projection on the budget based on revenues and expenses is 291.
If we have a good May and June this year, again, weather-wise and expense-wise, knock on wood, we should be under 300, I hope, this year. So, and I think we have, with some new play we're developing this year, I think we'll have those revenues even higher next year.
I just had a question about the golf course, if you don't mind, Mayor. I know it takes a lot of watering to water that course at times. Is there any rain barrel action being used to help water the course, like setting up rain barrels at different city departments and transporting it up there to help?
You know, I know several years ago, it would be great to have Mr. Scouf's affluent water, if we could get it. We could get it piped up there somehow. That would be a great situation for us because that's a huge expense.
Right.
Again, we're trying to be really careful as far as water use. Again, a lot of things tie in. If you overwater, you're more disease prevalent, and then you would have to treat that. So by being a little more careful with water, we're able to hopefully use less, you know, fungicides and whatnot, and keep it a little healthier. So we try to keep track of that. And a little firmer course is healthier and probably plays a little better also. So we do try to keep track of that. But I get an affluent system, something like that would be something to look at.
Thank you, Chris. That's all.
Mr. Wilder, just one more request for staff, and this is something we brought up at the last meeting too. But we don't charge any kind of fee for security at special events. I know that there's a parade fee, you know, there's a permit fee to hold a parade in town, but we end up providing a lot of officers at overtime and whatnot to police those things. Is there any precedent, or is there any way to establish a fee that's a little more reflective of the cost of the city?
I'm sorry, the question is?
Oh, so is there any precedent or any way to establish a fee for security at special events that's a little more reflective of the actual service we're providing?
That's a possibility. Take, for instance, Lexington.
Uh-huh.
They have a couple of events a year that are big community events that the city decides to support. You know, they have the big 4th of July race, a couple of other items. Then anything else that they do that requires city staff or maintenance, they charge them an actual cost for the event. So if you want to have a run for your cause down Main Street, and you need to close 3 blocks, and and the police department determines it's going to take, 20 officers, then you have to pay the rate for the officers. That's one way of doing it. You look at some of the events that we do, you know, like the 5Ks and things like that, you know, that's about $2,200 a pop. The National Socialist March, which used a lot of our departmental resources, a large number of people for a small amount of time, was about $5,500. So last year, most of them were, but they totaled about $22,000, I think, from our manpower budget. So,
In blunt terms, I mean, if the Nazis are going to require us to work overtime, I just assume they pay for it.
that's true, but if the YMCA wants to hold a 5K race
Yeah.
to benefit their programs, or if the Proactive wants to have a race, which, by the way, was a very successful one, I understand over 900 people ran, but to benefit the United Way, then, of course, whatever profits they make from that, they would have to figure the operating costs, hiring officers, and, you know, overtime pay and benefits, the average cost is about $40 an hour. If you have a 5K race, you're gonna need at least 16 officers if you're gonna have a closed race course. Particularly if you use the downtown Capitol Avenue area, you know, to close the streets and make it safe for the runners and walkers.
And is that anything that can be done more cost effectively? Like, for example, and I'm making this up. I talked to a retired police officer soon who's been enjoying his retirement, but is starting to think about looking for some part-time work or something else to do. And I don't know, he might be thinking about a greeter at Walmart or whatnot. I mean, is that the kind of thing? Are there non-police officers out there we could hire at less than $40 an hour plus benefits to handle that sort of thing?
Well, if you pull up to a roadblock and you see a little old man in a vest or a police officer in a uniform, you probably wouldn't, you know, and you just live right there and you got to get there, but you know, you're going to drive through a crowd of people running at a 17-minute clip for 3.1 miles. You know, that causes quite a problem. We try to use volunteers where we can. Say, take for instance Capitol Avenue. Rather than take 2 officers to close an area, if we can use, sometimes we've used volunteers from Citizens Police Academy. Sometimes we'll use explorers, people that are, you know. But you just can't count on that volunteer help all the time. And as far as a part-time force, I haven't really explored that. So.
Well, for what it's worth, I guess I still would be in favor of a fee to recover at least part of that cost, even if it's only the equivalent of $10 or $20 an hour as opposed to $40. That's my 2 cents.
Your pleasure.
Thank you, Mayor.
We still on old business, huh?
I don't know if there's
In moral business. This,
New business. We don't have any business.
no business. Okay, though. So we're now down to agenda item number 11, closed session. If someone makes a motion,
I'll make the motion, that we go into closed session per KRS 61.810, subsection 1, subsection B, to discuss property and also discuss KRS subsection 61.810, subsection 1, subsection F, to discuss personnel, termination, and discipline.
do we have a second? Commissioner May, second. Okay, call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Mayor Graham?
Yes, so we're in closed session.